Brian here, setthepacetriathlon.com. Wanted to do a little introduction to this video instead of just jumping right into the video. What it is, it's going to be a recording that I did for an athlete briefing specifically for first-timers doing IRONMAN Tulsa for 2021. So it's good information if this is going to be your first Ironman, and some good top 3 tips, a good main tip from me and from Earl, who is the head of Ironman University Coaching. He has talked to coaches like Matt Dixon, like Dave Scott, Mark Allen. He is in touch with all the master coaches for your Ironman University, all the ones you see doing all the posting and everything, and have their own coaching, won many Kona titles. It's just crazy how much information that Earl has been exposed to. So he puts in his little nuggets too, and that will really go a long way to help you out to have a very successful first time. Even if you're watching this beyond 2021 Tulsa, if you found it on the internet and you're watching it, it should be great information to really focus on those little things that will get you through a race. It may not be the perfect or the prettiest race, but you want to get that first race done, definitely, for sure. And this video will help give you tips on how to do that. So any questions or anything like that, put them in the comments, YouTube comments, Facebook comments, wherever they're at. I always try to go back and check and answer any questions, or if you got any information you think might be a good addition to this, maybe I can tack on some at the end, help you out. So with that, hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk to you later.
Hey guys, welcome to the 2021 First Timers Q&A for Ironman Tulsa. We are excited. This is something we typically do when we are on site, and just to kind of help make things accommodating with everyone getting returned to racing, we are going to do this virtually this year. So excited to have you guys here. Very lucky. We have got, my name's Casey Taker. I work in the athlete development department here at Ironman. We've got Earl Walton, who oversees coaching and training. And then we have our most special guest, Ryan Falkenrath. He is an IMU certified coach that's been with us for about 6 years now. And he is actually headed to Tulsa himself to race this weekend. But he's going to be helping us out this evening, getting some of your questions answered and getting you guys just all the feel goods. We want you guys feeling really great heading into race day. So we're going to get started. I am going to let Ryan take over for a few, give you guys a little bit of his kind of top 3 heading into race day, and then we'll get into some Q&A a little bit after that.
All right. Well, thanks for the intro there, Casey. So yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I'll be doing Ironman Tulsa, driving down tomorrow to do my check-in. So hopefully everybody signed up for their check-in time. But I want to start off with doing my Ironman Tulsa top 3 suggestions. Read the athlete guide. I think it's been posted everywhere. I printed mine off, and I have it with me at all times. I think I still find mine in my bag when I get back home after a race. A couple weeks later, I still have my athlete guide because, it's got the schedule in there. It's got all the information, basically. You look in the Facebook groups and see all the questions. A lot of them are in the athlete guide. So definitely print off the athlete guide, save it to your phone, have it handy. That's a big suggestion I have. One other one is don't do any last-minute changes. Here we are Wednesday before the race. Now's probably not the time to worry about what cassette do you have on your bike. If I'm riding hills or whatever, changing bikes, adding new gear, changing things. Hopefully have it all nailed down. Right now you should be making the list and packing your stuff. Really is not the time. There's minor changes that can be made, but right now hopefully you got it all nailed down. I would not be going through and picking a new hydration system or picking which food you're going to try on race day. Hopefully you got that all figured out. The other one is be adaptable. So this is going to be the first in 2021, the first full Ironman race in North America in a pandemic. So hopefully everybody brings a good attitude and being adaptable. And, if we've been looking at the weather forecast, there could be rain on race day. I just tried to do a local race this weekend, and we had severe weather that delayed us for about an hour and a half. So being adaptable, so showing up on race day and trying to, positive attitude as much as possible. We're all in it together, and, Ironman's out there to put on a good race. So if something comes up, let's be adaptable and let's do the best we can with it. And I had one more, like the biggest suggestion for the first timer. I'm all about lists. Keep moving. That would be my biggest suggestion every time I've done one of these first timer briefings is, listen to your body. If you need to walk, walk. Don't listen to people who go, oh, you need to keep running. Listen to your body. whatever you need to do to keep moving. If you need more water at the aid station, get more water. If you need to walk, walk. If you need to ride slower on your bike, ride slower on your bike. You know, don't stop until you've reached a point where someone says, oh, you reached a cutoff time, you can't make it. Like, keep going no matter what. You'll surprise yourself. So many athletes get to the finish line and are like, I didn't think I was going to do it. I was getting ready to pull out of the race, and they made the cutoff times. So if you get there and you feel defeated, you don't think you're going to make cutoff time, just keep going. You never know. You never know what's going to happen on race day, and you'll surprise yourself sometimes. So those are my kind of big tips for the first timers and for Ironman Tulsa.
There's nothing better than a coach that's racing. It's the double down. You've got the advice of someone who is preparing other people to do something epic, and they're also doing something epic themselves. So pretty cool. So
yep, I'll be in the same boat with everybody else on race morning.
No boats. There's no boats. Sorry.
That's true. Yeah. Hopefully, the same wetsuits as everybody else.
The same wetsuits. Can I just add two things to that? And I know this briefing, and I think this is really important. This briefing is definitely new, but this is a first timers briefing. So we want to talk about things, from a coaching standpoint. We have expert coach with us. We want to talk from that standpoint. The athlete briefing and the athlete guide that Ryan mentioned are so critical. You still need to go and read those things. So this is more of a coaching thing. This is a little bit of excitement. We're extremely excited because it's the first Ironman race in North America, but definitely take the time to do that. And I'll echo we used to call it the NORD, nothing new on race day rule. Don't do anything new on race day. And the idea of like keeping moving is so important because it is key to your goal. Like, you can't give up your goal. Like, it's something that's really important to note when we talk to first timers. You didn't do an Ironman because you like wanted to go and like float in the water for a little bit and go for a cruise on your bike and then a little jog. Like, this is epic. This is big. And if you ever at any point during the race feel like you're doubting your ability to finish or your desire to finish, eat something. It's 9 times out of 10, you're either dehydrated. The only things that should get in your way on race day are dehydration and a lack of food. So if you're finding that you suddenly, this goal that you've been chasing for all this time, suddenly you're like, I'm ready to give up on it. That's not you. Eat, drink, walk, take a break. I guarantee that within 5 minutes, you'll be moving forward at the rate that you're supposed to be moving. So that's really critical. That's a headset thing, mindset thing. Put that into your brain right from the start. Sorry, I have to get my coach's hat on and say those things at every briefing. So
no, it's too true. I mean, I think that the feeling of crossing the finish line will be much more epic than any feeling you have during that race of you don't want to finish it and you want to quit. There's one race that I did DNF because I cramped up and I was super dehydrated, and going backwards, if I would have slowed down, taken in some water, thought about it, and wasn't worried about time, I was a little pressuring myself to try to do a good time at the race, and just ran myself right into cramps. Couldn't move for about 30 minutes, and off to the medical tent I went. So I guarantee the losing, shooting your time in the foot by 2 hours or something like that is. I'd rather finish 16:59 than not finish the race.
Yep.
So that feeling of finishing is much more important than what you might feel kind of 5 minutes here and there in the race.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And guys, we always say that there's 2 people that get the most cheers on race day, and it's the person that finishes first and the person that finishes last. Those are the two people that get the most noise. And if you guys have ever, anyone that is doing the race, and if you guys are around, come toward the end of the race after you finished and you want to come back, that last hour on course is really great. And just being there to help support people and everything, and those different pockets on the run and everything else. So we are going to open this up for some Q&A. I've got a few questions that people sent ahead of time. So if you guys want to drop any questions you might have in the Q&A spot while I'm asking these, First and foremost, I'll go over really quick. We had quite a few questions come in about bag drop. I'm going to let Ryan tell you a little more just as far as some tips packing your bags, but in terms of where to actually drop those guys off, if you look at the schedule and if you look at that pre-race, everything is outlined there. But there is going to be two options when you check your bike in. Basically, you're going to have the option to let them valet it. So where they will take your bike and your bike bag and they're going to take that over to the other transition for you, or you're going to have the option to take it over there yourself in that set time. With your personal needs bags, those are the orange and the black bag. Those are going to be available. You're going to drop those off on race morning and they'll have the area outlined for you, but it's going to be dropped off on the way to swim start. And all of those addresses are in the athlete guide, on the schedule, and in that pre-race sheet. So just to give you guys some specific spots to look for that. Same thing with your morning clothes bag. You'll be able to take that and you will be able to drop that off right at the swim start and get that at the finish line. And there will also be, when you're looking at where those, honestly, I just forgot what I was going to say. So we'll move on. Ryan, packing your bags the night of. When I'm sitting here and I'm starting to pack my bags the night before I go take them, any recommendations you have, anything to help get through? I feel like that's always one of the more nerve-wracking points when it's all, what am I forgetting? What am I not doing?
Right. And it becomes a little bit more complex when you have a 2 transition race. So you got to be a little bit more thoughtful about it. First point is make sure you pick up your bags at check-in. I got through, I think I've done Ironman Chattanooga 3 times. And one time I went through and I got back and I'm like, where are my gear bags? Forgot to stop at the little spot and pick them up. So make sure when you do athlete check-in, you should be getting all your gear bags. So I think there's morning bag, there's special needs for the bike, special needs for the run, T1 and T2 bag. So you should get all those at check-in. Typically what I recommend and what I've done myself, this will be Ironman number 8 for me, is I lay out all my gear. So I packed it all in my bags and it's just all clumped in there however it fits best. So I take it and I just put it all out, usually on a bed someplace. And then I start organizing it by which transition I would need it in. So is it T1, is it T2, is it special needs, is this special needs on the run, is this going to be morning gear or whatever. So I start separating everything out and then figuring out what's going into the bags. And I've seen and heard comments, and also take pictures of what you're putting in there. So if you drop your bags off and you're like, well, did I because you will have access to them to put something back in them on race morning. But if you're like, I don't know if I put this in there, or did I put this in this bag or whatever, that will help you out. So you can look on your phone and be like, oh yeah, I put this in my T2 bag. I'm good to go. So then you can sleep peacefully the night before a race, because we all sleep all 8 hours right before a race, I'm sure. So take pictures of it. And what I recommend is, there's potential for rain for Tulsa. So I use like gallon Ziploc bags inside the bags. So anything that's small, I might put in like a little sandwich bag inside the big bag. So sometimes I might put, I don't know, just little bitty things that are in, that are kind of loose and running around, maybe, like earplugs or something like that, or you have something for the bike or something special if you have, medication or something like that you need in T1 or T2. Put it in a little bag in the big bag. That way you're not, when you dump that bag or whatever you're looking for, you're rifling through it in transition in T1 or T2. Everybody's a little hyped up, anxiety's kind of floating around. You're trying to get out of there as soon as possible. You don't want everything just spill on the floor. So this way you open your bag up, you take out your Ziploc bag, you can clearly see where everything's at, open it up, reach in, get your stuff, zip it back up and throw it back in. And it also keeps it dry if it rains. So if we drop our stuff off the night before for T1 and T2 like you're supposed to, it could rain and they're more than likely they're going to be sitting out. So if it rains on them and they're in Ziploc baggies on the inside, all your stuff in there is going to stay dry. So if you got stuff that's kind of questionable and you don't, most of us, if we want to change it to socks for the run, don't want to put on wet socks. So put everything inside Ziploc baggies, and that way it won't get wet. And I like to do it. Usually I'm doing it, I've got everything laid out, and I'm packing my gear bags the morning of drop off. So on Saturday before I go drop everything off, just to make sure, last minute check, and then give myself plenty of time Don't wait till the last minute to go drop everything off, because then you'll be in a hurry and kind of flustered. And then I drop everything off. So that's generally kind of what I recommend in the process that I go through.
Matthew Lane dropped in a question. Matt, in regards to the page 12 on the athlete guide, that is actually a typo. That's supposed to be Saturday, not Friday. So it is your bike. All the check-ins are going to be, in terms of bike and gear check-in, are on Saturday. Looking at the shuttles, they are mandatory. There is no, if someone drives you up to T2, they're going to have nowhere to go, because it's all going to be shut down. You guys aren't going to be able to get up there. So the shuttles are mandatory. That's going to be the easiest way. It's a great flow. And there's no spectators allowed in the T1 area. So everyone's going to be best just to stay down further down on the bike course and on the run course closer toward T2. Will we have access to put out our water bottles and other food items on our bikes race morning?
And you want me to answer that one? Because I know for the most part, since this will be number 8, but yes, I mean, you go to T2 and that's where you're going to drop off your special needs bags and all your stuff. The only thing you should be taking is your morning clothes bags and yourself to T1. Now, if you have stuff that's, a special drink or something like that, you want to put it on your bike, take it with you and put it on your bike. So you should have access to anything in T2, your T2 bag, basically, in the T2. And T1, you have access to your bike. Now, I believe that is a little bit of a hike from transition to the swim start. So you want to take that into account. Don't be the pop on the last bus shuttle and then be in a hurry, because you might have to run from the bike area to the swim start.
And then in T2, is there a spot for you to put your bike, or are those spots assigned? And then how do you know your slot location prior to race day? And that's when we do racking, all of those racks are labeled. So whenever you are going to rack, they will rack your bike, or whenever you go to rack your bike in T1, it'll be numbered, and it's all done in dynamic order. And same thing when you're coming in back into T2 to drop your bike off. You will put it in a select spot. And that's just because it always seems like your bike, you know what it looks like and everything. But if we didn't do that, you wouldn't be able to find it. And also,
it's good advice. It's good advice to make sure that as you go through, if you haven't been to an Ironman event, or if you've done local sprint tries or smaller triathlon events, it's a big area, and it's even bigger now because of COVID. So there's a lot of room and there's a lot of space around the bikes, which is new. But there's also no change tents. So that's a little bit different from an Ironman standpoint. So when you're going in, it's definitely one of those things you really want to know where your bag is and where your bike is, so that when you come out of the water, when you're coming off the bike, when you're going to those transition areas, you have some kind of landmark, whether there's a tree, whether I wouldn't use someone else's bike, but all the rows are racked, like the bike racks are marked. So your number is going to be at the end of that row. If you can make it easier on yourself, and there's a big sign or there's something else that's a landmark, but make sure you kind of give yourself time to orient yourself to the transition areas. The run in, the bike ins, the bike outs, all that stuff is just a little bit longer. So on race morning, when you're checking your bike in, kind of walk the transition area a little bit, get familiar with it. Recognize that you're going to be barefoot running. Is there areas where you don't want to run? Is there areas where there's gravel or things like that? Just give yourself enough time when you do go into transitions, check that stuff out. Highly recommend that. It's also a great place to take pictures before the race, if it's your first one. So,
Ryan, I know you've mentioned there may be, potential for rain, or that, in the past, if it is rainy, is there anything we need to keep in mind? Like if we're heading out and there is some rain, or it's rained that morning, or anything like that, keep in mind as we're going down the road?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, you probably want to be a little conservative on the speed, and kind of in general, be conservative when you come out of T1. You don't want to just come cramming the gears anyway from a coaching perspective if the day is perfect. But maybe, turns, maybe not an arrow if it's a little bit, of a sharp turn. Just pay that little extra attention, maybe avoid the stripes, like on the side of the road or the middle of the road. just in case they're a little wet or something like that. You don't want to have a slip coming out of T1 and, 10 miles on the race, have a spill and have it kind of put a damper on the day. So definitely watch your speed, watch other people, watch them around you. Always have your head on a swivel, regardless of the weather, but especially with rain. I would suggest, and I've been telling my athletes this, maybe put a raincoat in. It should be upper 70s in Tulsa, so I'm thinking it's going to be warm enough that if it's raining, it's really not going to be a big deal. But consider your gear that you're wearing. If it absorbs water, you're going to be a little bit more wet. My tri-suit is a little less absorbent, so it sheds off the water. So I shouldn't be soaking wet. But consider if you've got, if you're riding maybe bike clothing or bike jersey, you could be a little bit more wet. So maybe an outer shell, light shell, just keep yourself a little bit dry. The last forecast I checked yesterday has rain in the morning and then it kind of tapers off in the clouds. So it might be we get a little bit wet on the start of the bike and then it stops raining and then we get, dry. So maybe gear that's not super expensive. So if you ride by a aid station and you want to get rid of a jacket or a shell or something like that, you can leave it at the aid station. Now you won't get it back, but if you go find something that's pretty inexpensive, it's not that big a deal if it's $5 or $10. If it kept you warm for 30 miles, 40 miles, and you're not shivering on your bike in the rain, I think that's worth it. But that's kind of what I would suggest.
I would just add the point. I would say this because it's always a pet peeve when I see people on their super aero bikes with all this fitness in them and they're flopping around in the wind with these big shells on and that kind of stuff. So it always makes me a little bit crazy. I think it's definitely a consideration if you're one of those people that gets cold. Absolutely. That trumps it. You want to be warm more than anything. You don't want to lose energy through your cold. But I would consider that a last resort. There's other things you can do. If you want to put toe covers on your shoes, like think about the places on your body where you encounter the wind most, your knees, your toes, your hands. So think about gloves, think about knee warmers and toe covers. Toe covers can be on your shoes when you get in. You don't even have to worry about them all day. Things like that that'll keep the warmth in. And then a shell definitely as your last resort if you're going to be cold. I think that's something that's really critical. So it's my opinion. One man's opinion.
And then if we're going along and we are, especially once you get on the run, there are quite a bit of things available to you in terms of, beverages and all of that. If we do start cramping up or we do start feeling a certain way, are there any kind of go-tos? Again, I know me, I don't usually train with Coke or Red Bull or different things like that. But if we start feeling a little funky, is there something we should try to do? Or if we start feeling like we're cramping up?
Yeah, I mean, definitely if you're starting to feel a little lightheaded or you're feeling a little dizzy or fuzzy or something like that, it's usually an indication that you're kind of down in your hydration. So that might be a time to kind of make sure that you walk an aid station and get hydration, get some Gatorade. Could, like I said, it'd be an indication of you're low on electrolytes or minerals. So maybe a sports gel, if that's something that you can tolerate if you've used it in the past. Especially the full Ironman, they've got a plethora of things you can try. We always say don't try anything new on race day, but if you're getting to a point where you're feeling fuzzy and you're feeling lightheaded and you just don't feel good, definitely slow it down, get to aid station, take something that you think will be tolerable for you. I've done Red Bull. It at least has sugar to keep you going. Once you start sugar, you don't want to stop it. But it's gotten me through a few Ironman the last 5-6 miles of an Ironman race doing Red Bull. Gatorade has kind of helped, but Red Bull has a little bit more, it's got a little bit of caffeine to it, so it kind of gives you that little kick. So yeah, definitely, I think if you're feeling fuzzy, you're feeling kind of wiped out, and you're kind of, your whole body's just feeling like it's ready to just take a nap, that's time when you need to stop, make sure you stock up at an aid station and maybe walk for a little bit and just kind of see if you can recover and bounce back.
And with things are a little bit different this year with not having changing tents and everything with COVID, any recommendations for not embarrassing oneself when attempting to change and transition?
Yeah, no public nudity. I did tell my athletes, be cognizant of what you're wearing on your wetsuit, because if you take your wetsuit off and there's no tent and you got nothing on underneath it, it's going to be a little embarrassing for you. Um, I personally, I wear Under Armour compression shorts as my base layer, but I also wear my tri-suit underneath my wetsuit. So I wear it the entire race, and it's comfortable enough, and I have no problems with that. So I can strip my wetsuit off, and I'm not going to be worried about it. But for guys, have something on underneath the lower half. I try to avoid telling people, like, I wouldn't trust a towel around the waist to change in transition. You're going to be in a hurry. There's a lot of people running around. It's going to be easy to get a towel knocked down, and technically you can get a penalty for public nudity in transition. So I would err on the side of caution and just have something as a base layer that you can wear underneath your race kit, and gals, sports bras, and something on the bottom. So that's the biggest thing I've been telling athletes is going to be different this year is you can't do a full-on change. You're going to have a base layer of some sort. And like I said, I got some black Under Armour compression shorts. Does the trick. If I need to, just take my wetsuit off and put something else on, I'm ready to go. So that's kind of what I've been recommending.
Awesome. On a technical front, I know we had a couple questions as far as practice swim and everything. Just so everyone knows, the lake will be open on Saturday. The area around T1 will not be open, so you can't swim up there. But any of the other safely marked areas in the lake that are normally publicly available for swimming will be available. We just ask everyone, make sure if you are doing that, you've got your bright colored swim cap on, and that you're easily visible out there in the water. And just looking through, see if there were any questions we did not get a chance to answer. Quick spectator, there will be spectators. There will be zones around the finish line and on the bike and run course where spectators are allowed. So those will be marked. And they're going to go over those a little bit more in the athlete briefing as well. And that athlete briefing is up on the Ironman Tulsa website. We've also dropped that link at the very top of that chat. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Ryan, Earl, any other first-timer words of wisdom?
Well, and I was going to make a comment about spectators. I've lived in Tulsa for work, and I've covered that as part of my territories for work. And I ran on those river trails more miles than I really can remember. There are plenty of park areas. There are plenty of good opportunities for spectators. So if people are worried about, I'll be able to see my athlete in T1 or T2, I would find a good place on the run course, or like I said, plenty of parks, things for kids to kind of do to keep them occupied. And you're going to see your athlete probably 4 times, running in, running out, running in, running out. And maybe someplace closer to finish line if you want to go to the finish line and see them. But I think that run course is going to be a spectator heaven, just because it's long. There's plenty of space to space out between people. And like I said, it's a good park system. It's a good paved trail. And I think it'll be a good opportunity for spectators.
And Ryan, are there any places to ride? Like if we're looking for somewhere in town just to get in a quick shakeout ride or anything like that?
I would hesitate to recommend the trails where the run's going to be at, because there's a lot of runners and joggers and walkers and stuff. So you'll be dodging a lot of people, and I don't think it's really a good, safe situation for people to ride on that trail. So what I've been recommending is going up to Keystone Lake in the transition area. And there's places to park and get your bike, and you can kind of ride the beginning of the course a little bit. Don't go crazy. Don't go out and do 50-mile bike rides or anything like that, a couple days before the race. But I think that's a good opportunity to park there and then go out and kind of catch some of the course if you want to.
Awesome. All right, guys, anyone have any more questions? Earl?
I don't have any questions. I have two really important things I always like to tell people before race weekend. One is your schedule and your time. Like your time is super important this weekend, and you have to be a little bit selfish with it, because as an athlete who's getting ready, especially for your first race, your brain is already on overload, and it probably has been for months. And if you've got family and friends that are coming to watch you and they're saying, well, we want to go to lunch here and we'd like to take in this and we're going to walk the streets and we're going to check out Main Street and all these things, that's not for you. Sorry, you're going to have to be a little selfish, and setting expectations with the people that you're traveling with right from the start is really, really important. It's hard, but you've got to do it. And it's got to be one of those things where it's like, look, I'm checking my bike in at this time. I have to be there at this time. I want to be off my feet the day before the race by this time and watching a movie. Try to schedule things and plan things with them right from the bat. It's super, super important. It'll make your life easier and not make you feel, kind of like rotten about having these folks there, because they're going to be your biggest source of energy the day after. Well, the day of the race and the day after the race, they're going to be your biggest source of, helping you walk down steps. But that's really important. So setting a schedule for that stuff is really critical. And I'm sure you've already done that. The other piece of it is, of that kind of weekend schedule, is if you haven't left for town yet, like, buy the stuff that you need at home. You are going to the land of triathlon. So every person there in that town that day is buying all the gels and the water bottles and the other stuff. Pack yourself at home where you have a small community of triathletes before you walk into triathlon land, in Tulsa for the weekend. That's really critical. Now, the fun part of that is that you are going to be doing your first Ironman in triathlon land. So this is the only place in the world for an entire day where walking around in compression shorts is totally normal. So at 3:00 in the afternoon, sitting at the sidewalk cafe, everybody's in compression shorts and tri-kits and all that kind of cool stuff. So that's going to be amazing. The more important thing for you first timers is that you are going to be in an incredibly historic race. So you should be even more excited about this weekend, because you are doing the first Ironman distance race in North America in 2021, after this pandemic, after everything you've gone through. So you have this incredible day ahead of you. So this is like, if I were in better shape, I would be signing up to go do Tulsa right now. I'm not in the same shape as Ryan is, but I am so excited just sitting on my side of the world at Ironman about this day. And I am hoping that I'm sending all of that energy to you, because it's going to be amazing. You need to make sure that you keep in mind that this is your first Ironman. Keep in mind that it's an historic event, and keep in mind that it's going to be this beautiful course. So take your time, breathe it all in. If you need to stop and look around, stop and look around. If at any moment you're not realizing that you're doing something really, really, and I won't curse, cool, then you need to stop and take a breath, because this only happens once. You only have one first Ironman, and we're only going to have one first Ironman after a pandemic. So please take it in, please enjoy it, and high five the well, don't high five them, I guess. Give them like an elbow bump with the volunteers. Say hi to a kid. The best Ironman I ever did, I made one goal for the run course, and that was to give a high five and thank every kid that was at the aid stations. And you know what? I had the best run I'd ever had in my life. So take it all in, guys. Enjoy it. Really have a great time, and tell us all about it. Send us notes, post it online. I want to see race reports about your first Ironman. I'm super excited, as you can tell. Sorry, I get carried away.
And guys, as a first timer, this is actually the only time that you will have an opportunity to wear your Become One bracelets. The cool thing, when you go in to check in, you'll go to the solutions tent. There'll be a sign there. If you don't see it, just go straight to the solutions table. They're going to give you your Become One wristband. The cool thing about these wristbands is, number one, it lets everyone around you know that you're a first timer. And that's not a bad thing. What's cool is looking around, and all of a sudden you start seeing all these cool orange wristbands just making their way around. And you kind of like, there's 860 of you guys. 860 people are going to do their first Ironman at Tulsa. So you're in a big bunch. It also helps just fans and everybody know that it's your first one. And so they're out there and they're yelling and they're screaming, and they see you coming down the pipe and they want to yell and scream even more, because they know like you're cranking it. This is your very first one. So make sure to enjoy that. We do have some great photo ops for you guys. There's the, I Will Become One backdrop and the big class of 2021 sign in Expo. You can take some pictures with. Please post those. We can't wait to see it. And yeah, we're pumped. Like, it's beyond exciting. I've been working with the first timer program since I started here at Ironman, and it is my very, very favorite thing to be on race day and watching everyone head into their first race. So last call for questions. All right, Ryan, I want to give you a big thank you for being our guest today, and all of your knowledge. I know that you're putting together some great things on Tulsa for future years, and you're going to be taking a ton of notes while you're out there this year to help us out there. Earl, thanks for jumping in as well. Guys, thank you guys for joining us, and we will have this posted up on the Facebook page and the website. All right, guys.
Awesome. Have a great race, everybody. Have a great race, Ryan.
Yep. See you on
Enjoy.
race day.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.